It was a war that lasted just 9 months, but that killed approaching 3 million people and displaced nearly 10 million. At the partitioning of India, at the end of British rule in 1947, the country divided into India and both West and East Pakistan. Despite being apart, the two halves of Pakistan were governed from the West, but there were huge differences, notably the West speaking Urdu, the East Bengali. Tensions soon escalated as the East believed they were being exploited. At the end of 1970, elections were won overwhelmingly in the East by an East Pakistani party, the Awami League. The results, though, ignored by the West. On the 7th of March 1971, its leader gave a passionate speech seen as announcing a struggle for independence.
Now the people of Bangla want freedom. The people of Bangla want to live. The people of Bangla want to have their rights.
Well, there followed a violent crackdown. Operation Searchlight, launched by the West. The civil war had begun, sparking a huge refugee crisis. It wasn't until the end of the year that Pakistan ultimately conceded defeat, leading to the permanent liberation of Bangladesh. Well, since then, Bangladesh has seen remarkable change. Millions have been lifted out of poverty. It is one of Asia's fastest growing economies, thanks to, for example, its huge garment industry. But there remain huge challenges. Well, Leah Delfuli, Faisal Mahmood and Kanza Junaid revisit Bangladesh for France 24.
In this building, located in the business district of the capital, Dhaka, Vidya Amrit Khan stares at photos of her father, Noor al-Qadir, who is regarded as the hero of Bangladesh's independence.
My father, he started as, he was first in the Air Force. So that's a picture from when I think he was very, very young at the Air Force. And that's when the war started.
Noor al-Qadir fought for independence against the Pakistani army. Once the conflict was over, he was appointed the top officer of the newly formed government struggling to build this new nation. He introduced a new industry in the country to overcome the financial burden of the 9-month-long war. In 1978, he launched Bangladesh's first garment factory, which laid the foundation for the country to become the garment hub of the world.
My father, being a big patriot, he also wanted to give an industry to the country because we had our jute mills, which were nationalized, but which weren't working at the time. So as far as Bangladesh was concerned, we didn't have an industry. There was no place for employment of so many people to take place after war. And of course, we needed to do something to build the country.
It was the start of Desh Garments, now run by Vidya. After completing her studies in Europe, she returned home and decided to carry on the legacy and vision of her father. In the nation's post-independence drive for economic development, the country has mostly relied on women's contribution. Of the 1,000 employees at Desh Garments, 65% are women.
My father told me that he saw during the war so much atrocities against the women and children that he felt that he needed to, find a way for them. But Bangladesh was on the world map because of the garment industry. And these women were working and they found their independence because of the garment industry.
A market worth over $55 billion makes Bangladesh the world's second largest textile exporter, trailing only behind China. The country currently has 4,500 garment factories, employing 4 million workers, with over half of them women. Among these workers is Rukia, who has been working at a factory in Dhaka for over 10 years. 6 days a week, she sews shirts for major European brands.
Before, I used to just be a housewife, but now not only do I give money to help my family, I can also help my husband take care of my children financially. I have more respect now in society.
She feels the textile industry has changed the lives of people in Bangladesh.
Before, in Bangladesh, there were lots of shortages, even famine. People couldn't eat. They wore the same clothes all year round.
Rukia lives just a few minutes' walk from her workplace. She now earns €230 a month. Her salary was raised after protests held a few months ago demanding better working conditions in the factories. A modest income, but one that now enables her to provide an education for her son.
I want them to be doctors. In fact, there's no substitute for education. Education is a very important thing. It's indispensable.
The country's economy has grown rapidly. Over 8 million Bangladeshis have been lifted out of poverty in the last 15 years. Politics and linguistic differences triggered the demand for an independent Bangladesh. Pakistan declared Urdu the official language, but Bangladesh, then East Pakistan, had a large Bengali-speaking population.
That red sign over there says, Amar bhayer rokte rangano, 21 February, ami ki bhulite pari. It's a line from a very famous song. Essentially, it says, can I ever forget the blood of my brother? This place reminds me of that.
Shahidul Alam is a photographer. He takes us to the monument built in the memory of those who lost their lives in the fight to preserve the Bengali language.
This nation has sacrificed a hell of a lot for this, for what we call liberation. I have photographed here on many human rights situations, and this is a very historic place where some of the most powerful statements have been made. At the end of the day, I think liberation is about self-rule, it's about self-liberation, it's about creating an egalitarian space for all people. That was the promise of 1971. That is a promise that sadly is unrealized.
Bangladesh has been marred by political instability since its independence. It has seen 4 coups and the rise and fall of 14 governments in 5 decades. For the past 15 years, the country has been ruled with an iron fist by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The country's economic progress is seen to have come at the expense of declining democratic and human rights, which is far from the model her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, considered the founder of Bangladesh, envisioned. He was assassinated in the year 1975.
That is Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The word Bangabandhu is friend of Bangladesh. And this is the person who actually played such an important role in the liberation of my country. Sadly, this country is not what he had promised. And I'm sure had he been alive today, he'd have been turning in his grave, because this is not the Bangladesh he himself had dreamed of. It's his daughter who is now running the country, and I believe it's his daughter that has done him the greatest disservice.
Shahidul Alam says he's a victim of Sheikh Hasina's crackdown on political opponents. In 2018, he was arrested from his home shortly after he gave an interview to an international channel and posted a video on Facebook criticizing the government's violent response to student protests.
I was blindfolded, I was handcuffed behind my back, I was interrogated, tortured, and I spent the night there. The following morning, they took me to the police headquarters, and there they offered me a deal, suggesting that if I were to stay quiet, I could go home. When I refused to do that, they got very angry. And they had been threatening me before, and they threaten me with further consequences.
Shahidul spent 3 months in prison. He was released on bail and is now subjected to strict judicial control. Every month, he's required to appear before the court to prove he has not left the country.
I signed some documents and they gave us a new appearance date, and we still don't know what will happen. It's as unpredictable then as it was today. We have come a long way since independence in terms of time. We've not come a long way in terms of the political structure or what this country represents. At that time, we might have expected this because we were under occupation. But today, we have apparently our own government, and our own government is treating its citizens as if they're under occupation.
The young nation has plenty of challenges to deal with, one of which has recently entered the political debate: climate change. The country's south lies on the world's largest delta at the confluence of the Ganges and Brahmaputra rivers, encompassing a mangrove-covered swamp jungle called the Sundarbans. Shamir Shihab is a young environmental activist. He regularly surveys this region affected by the rising sea levels. He meets farmers like Muhammad, whose land is directly impacted by the rising sea levels. Salt water from the Indian Ocean regularly floods his fields, turning them infertile.
We began growing rice here in 2000. Rice can't be grown now because the water is too salty. But before, the soil was fertile enough for rice cultivation. Back then we had fish, goats and cows and other dairy animals. But by adding more salt to the water, we lost everything.
His crops earn him just 45 euros a month. The threat of global warming could force him to leave his village and migrate to the city. According to climate experts, rising sea levels will submerge 20% of the country, displacing around 20 million people by 2050.
Every day there are 2,000 people who actually moves to the bigger towns, bigger cities like the Dhaka and Chittagong. And this number is increasing every day because these natural disaster, climate-induced effects are increasing also day by day.
Rural exodus has worsened over the past 10 years. Almost 200,000 climate refugees have taken shelter in this shanty town of Dhaka. There is no direct access to sanitation facilities and drinking water here. Many worked as farmers in the countryside. Today, most earn a meager living by working as street sweepers, domestic servants, or tea vendors.
I come from the Kumila district. We had to come and live in Dhaka because our house was destroyed when the sea and river flooded. We've been here for 15 years.
One of the things is the local level adaptation has to be scaled up so that there are livelihood opportunities in the local level so that people do not have the incentive to move to bigger cities in town. And that begs the questions of proper climate financing being channeled down to the local community.
Bangladesh still has a long way to go while battling the ever-looming threat of natural disasters. Each year, on December 16th, the day the war ended and Bangladesh was liberated, Vidya visits her father's grave to put flowers on it. She wants to remember those who fought for the freedom of the nation.
This is the National Intellectuals Graveyard, and on the 14th of December, when the Pakistanis knew already that they had lost the war
they decided to bring in all the intellectuals of the country to that mass grave over there and just kill them all. And their thought process was that, you know, if we take away all the intellectuals, then this country will be empty.
Over 1,100 intellectuals were killed by the Pakistani army in the space of a few hours.
In a way, you come here to pay respect because it's 50 years our independence, it's not too long. We knew a lot of the parents, we knew a lot of the people who were killed, or you know the children of those who were martyred. We are so close to the historical events that took place. We are so close to the stories we hear of my mother even telling us how she was running across fields. In another country, we don't relate to so much in such a short time.
Bangladesh still lives with the painful memory of the freedom struggle that led to the death of nearly 3 million people.
Leah Delfully, Faisal Mahmood and Kanzat Juned revisiting Bangladesh for France 24. Don't forget you can catch that edition and all our previous editions as well on our website at france24.com. More news coming up shortly. Thanks for watching.